Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not gonna do what you all think I'm gonna do, which is just flip out!
I don't need anything except this. This ashtray, and that's the only thing I need is this. I don't need this or this. Just this ashtray. This paddle game. The ashtray and the paddle game, and that's all I need.
Well, what the hell is supposed to do, you moron?
Some men aren't looking for anything logical.
That's a spicy meatball.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Red Hot Steelers Takes. I'm your host, Bob Quinn, formerly of Steelers Sanctuary, and I welcome everybody and happy to have everybody in the audience. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to do a couple of draft profiles. We're going to address a couple of hot topics at Steeler for the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers, Dan Orlovsky comparing them to Ty Simpson as the best quarterback, maybe second best quarterback in the draft, was I found kind of interesting and should be a lot of fun. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about kind of the elephant in the room for the Steelers fans, which is Aaron Rodgers. And our friend Nick Wright over at Fox Sports had a interesting take along with Chris Broussard. So let's take a quick listen.
Let players such as Kyler, Tua, Justin Fields, Geno pass by, even though it would have been able to add those quarterbacks on deals that are mostly paid by their former teams. The Steelers could go after Kirk Cousins or Jimmy G, but a reunion with Rodgers seems inevitable. Chances this works out for Pittsburgh.
Zero. Now, if working out is getting to the Super Bowl or winning it, okay? And I'm starting to believe you when you say, that's not what the Steelers are about.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you're right and it's just about let's get in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. What about
I'll say slim.
And make some noise.
Hold on,
Slim.
can we set it at win a playoff game?
Oh, that's
Because that
would be a huge
That's
win.
what I'm
Slim
saying.
at best.
So you give him a slight chance at that. Because I give him no chance. But go ahead.
Well, allow me to retort.
So let's talk about this from a national media perspective. There's people down on Aaron Rodgers. A lot of the fan base is starting to get down on Aaron Rodgers, and I get it, where it comes from. But Aaron, I don't think he ever made it clear to anybody, but or with the Steelers that, hey, I'm going to give you some announcement. He goes on the McAfee show. He basically says they haven't offered him a contract, which personally I believe that's kind of bullshit. I think they know what they're going to do. I think that before the season was over, he told them, yay, I'm coming back, or no, we're not coming back. So at the same time, I get it where people, oh, he's holding us hostage and he's doing all these things. Well, it takes two to tango. And what I mean by that is the Steelers wouldn't be held hostage if they didn't want to be held hostage. We take a look at some of the guys available, like Nick Wright was just saying in the clip, and they were quoting Bill Barnwell that, well, they passed on Kyler Murray. Is Kyler Murray a great fit for the Mike McCarthy offense? Probably not. I think I would have kind of liked to see it. Do we think Malik Willis was a great fit? Yeah, I kind of do. But he made the decision to go to Miami. I bet he's regretting that right about now. But then again, he did go with a coach he's familiar with in Jeff Hadley. Now, I don't understand where all the animus for Aaron is. I mean, I thought he played pretty well last year. Now, did he play great? No. Did he play top 15 quarterback? At times. You have to look at from a scoring offense standpoint that we were pretty good in the red zone. We were really good. Maybe the best we've been since maybe 2020. I mean, even the year before Ben retired. And Relic, thanks for putting up a comment. You don't go out and get a legit wide receiver too for that kind of money. if they needed to get a quarterback in free agency, so Rodgers is coming back. I do agree Rodgers is coming back. And do I think it's the best option? In a vacuum, yes. And I'll tell you why. Number one, for Will Howard believers, it gives him another year with Will Howard. But there are there's guys I think they may draft in the fourth, fifth, sixth rounds that having a year under Rodgers would really benefit them as well. And if just so we get it up front, I I have a cold, so if my voice sounds a little weird, I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. Hopefully by Friday I'll be better. But that being said, yeah, I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. I wanted him to come to Pittsburgh. I thought he played pretty well. And when we get into our draft profile, and we kind of did it when we looked at Michael Pittman with the previous podcast, that those throws where he was launching to Gainwell, those throws are going to be there in this Mike McCarthy offense. The only difference is a guy like Michael Pittman is going to be 3, 4 steps down the field, 4 or 5 yards. He's got a big body. He can catch the ball. He can kind of bowl through. When we look at KC Concepcion in a little while, which is a guy who I actually am thinking more and more will really fit what the Steelers want to do on offense. I was not a huge fan of him going into the draft process, but the more I watch his tape, the more I think he fits from a skill set standpoint, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But those quick throws that Aaron Rodgers was doing, where they were saying, "Oh, well, he just checked down, check down, check down." Well, the difference is now those are going to be 2, 3 yard slants to DK Metcalf, to Michael Pittman, to XYZ wide receiver who they're going to bring in. I personally don't think Roman Wilson is going to make the team. I know everybody says, "Well, he's a third round pick." The Steelers have a history of moving on from high draft picks early in the process if they really don't think that they're going to make it. And this is a new Steelers way of doing business. I think we have to look at, what the Steelers are doing compared to what they have done. This is not the I show up to every pro day, I fall in love with guys, Mike Tomlin Steelers. You give Tomlin a lot of credit for working with kids and really getting a feel for them. But when you look back, really over the last 10 years, you look back and there just was no, you'd fall in love with these guys, you'd sign these secondary free agents, but we didn't really get anything out of it. It's gonna be a different way of doing business. I like the fact they didn't go to a bunch of pro days as far as Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy. I like the fact they're relying on the scouts. When the Steelers were at their very, very best in years past, the scouts, it was scouting driven. Now, was a guy like, Dan Rooney or Tom Donahue or even Kevin Colbert in the early years, were they good at scouting? Yeah, they were really good at scouting. So do I want to see Andy Weidel at pro days? Yeah, because he's kind of our scout, and I like the fact that Colbert is there. What I really love is the fact that Daniel Rooney was there. Daniel Rooney is showing up and actually talking to and scouting. That gives me a lot of hope for the future of the franchise, that when Art steps down sooner rather than later, I hope nothing happens to him, but at the same time, it's time. You're older than your dad was, you're older than the chief was. It's time to step down and pass the torch. So yeah, I like the fact that Aaron Rodgers is back. I like the fact that I think we're going to be a very competitive team, and I don't think we're done with weapons just yet. So speaking of, kind of quarterbacks here, I don't know if you guys caught this, but Dan Orlovsky went on ESPN and had some interesting things to say about a guy who's been linked to the Steelers by a lot of the national guys. So let's take a quick listen.
If Ty Simpson was 6'4", or Ty Simpson had 20 plus 23 college starts, he would be in play at number 2 for the New York Jets. He's very much Brock Purdy for me. If you watch his tape and you just take everything else away, all you see is big time throw that is an NFL style throw down the field.
No, I reject the premise of this.
So I am not a Ty Simpson fan, admittedly. And Dan Orlovsky played quarterback in the NFL. So I completely discredit his opinion. No, I don't. But if I'm looking for a second or third string quarterback in the first round, Ty Simpson is the way to go. I thought it was interesting that he said, well, if he was 6'4", and if he was this, and if he, I mean, and if the nuts were candy and butts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. He's not. The comp to Brock Purdy, it's interesting, but you could almost make the case that Brock Purdy maybe is just a product of the Shanahan offense. Would he fit in a Mike McCarthy offense? Potentially, but why do you want to take the risk? You wait a year, you get a guy maybe in the first round next year, or if you're going to take a risk on a guy, and this is a guy I love, and I've been on him all through the draft process, Cole Payton from North Dakota State. I really like that guy. I've said I've liked that guy. I've been saying for 3 or 4 weeks now that I think he's the guy the Steelers should target. Trait wise, is he Taylor Green with athleticism? No, but I don't need my quarterback to be the fastest guy on my team. I really don't. I want my quarterback to be able to throw the ball, and that kid can throw the ball. Now, granted, he threw the ball to Bryce Lance a lot, who's an NFL level receiver, and they were playing Division II. So yeah, but at the same time, if I'm going to take a chance and I can get that guy in the fourth round, and I think you can, I know there's rumors he'll slide into the third. I think that's a little bit too high of a price for him. But if you get him in the fourth round, good height, maybe he develops, maybe he doesn't, but it doesn't impact you. You can easily move on from a fourth round quarterback next year and bring in a starter. And if he's even remotely competent, even if he's not your future, then he's your solid backup, like a Will Howard would be. Although I really think Howard is a journeyman type of player at this point. I know that the Will Howard truthers out there are going to say, "Oh, Bob, he's so good, he won a national championship." AJ McCarron, Tim Tebow, you know, Jimmy McElroy. Or Greg McElroy. It's littered with people who have won the last 25 years national championships and who weren't good NFL quarterbacks. So we can't hang our hat on that. We just can't. Now, that being said, you know, could does that mean no national champion quarterback will ever be any good? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that we've got to see, you look at a guy like Joe Burrow, who won the national championship, and he was really good. Before that, you really got to go back a ways to find someone. It just seems like in the 60s and 70s, winning national championships occasionally translated to you being a pretty good quarterback. Wasn't a magic bullet back then either. But as the game has evolved and passing has evolved, it doesn't. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not a big winner in college, and he's arguably the best quarterback in the NFL. Tom Brady definitely wasn't a big winner at Michigan, and he was arguably the best quarterback in the history of the NFL. I'd still say Joe Montana, who was a winner at Notre Dame, but that's just me and my Notre Dame bias. So let's talk about some draft profiles. I see we've got a big crowd here. I appreciate that. Maybe before we do the draft profiles, I'm guessing a lot of you are tuning in to wonder about the Steelers sanctuary drama. I'm not going to go too deep into it. All I can say is I really appreciate everybody watching, and this is our podcast. Whereas maybe in the past, podcasts weren't always a group effort. It was a individual effort. That's the only negative thing I'll say. I wish those guys no ill will. I hope you continue to watch them after you're done watching me, of course. So that being said, I appreciate it, Relic Bob MVP. So let's talk about our draft profiles here. All right, so here's our nice little logo. This will be available on merch pretty soon. My wife's working on it. For those of you who don't know, my wife does our merch, so we have all kinds of cool stuff. I'm working on a draft contest that'll be similar, but not completely similar to what we did last year, and we'll have some cool prizes, some cool merch prizes that we'll do. I'll have that out here by the end of the week. Oh, by the way, programming note, we're going to go Mondays and Fridays at 6:30, and I will have a guest on Friday. So I'm looking forward to having a chat with him for the first time. He's got some really interesting takes. So yeah, tune in for that. It'll be really cool. So let's talk Let's talk about our draft guys here. So the first guy we're going to talk about is Casey Concepcion. Now, look, I get it. He drops the ball. I don't like that he drops the ball, but man, this kid is electric. And you just watch some of the stuff he does. It is so interesting as a player. And I like Makai Lemon, but I'm starting to feel like number one, I think he'll be gone. But number two, I'm starting to feel like Makai Lemon maybe doesn't fit as well with what the Steelers are going to potentially want to do in the Mike McCarthy offense versus what they would do with Makai Lemon. So before we go on to tell the tape, other than the fact that's interesting because he's still listed as 5'11", only he did measure at 6 foot in the combine. He did not run the 40 at his pro day or at the combine, so I just put down that he's fast. And when you watch this tape here in a second, you're going to realize, yes, he's really fast. So let's take a look at Casey's tape here. All right, so this is what I really like about him is not only is he good in the pass game, but the return game with him is a real factor. Like, and if you watch this here, I mean, some people are concerned. Well, he's a smaller guy, and can he be physical? I just want you to rewatch this on the replay here. This is a little curl route. He catches it inside the 5, and he drags a guy into the end zone. So hang on one second. We went a little too fast. Sorry, I'm talking and doing the tape. Usually before somebody else did the talking during this. But let's just fast forward a little bit to the next return. And I mean, he's so physical. Yeah, I hate to say this name, but the more I watched him, the more I kind of thought, hey, undersized, here's another punt return. Look at this is against LSU, and just look at how fast this is. And LSU is a bunch of guys these guys are NFL caliber players, and he's just running away from them. I'm going to pause it right here. At least I hope I'm going to pause it. It's not working for me here. There we go. Technical difficulties. I'll get it all worked out. But you watch him kind of run away from people here. This is the name I'm going to say. There's some AB here. It's not, his hands have got to get 100% better. But if you remember early in his career, AB was really electric on the punt returns, and he played bigger than he was. He's a little bit bigger than AB, actually. He might be a little bit faster. Now, I don't want to put that on the kid that he's going to be Antonio Brown. But when you watch the tape here, I want you to watch this. You're going to recognize this. This is a staple of the Steelers offense and a lot of NFL offenses. But the last couple of years, we've seen this play a bunch with Calvin Austin. Watch what Casey Concepcion does here. Drops back, takes the screen, and he's gone. I mean, one step and he's gone. Now I realize he's playing a college defense, and hey, maybe it's not quite as impressive against that, but you can only watch the competition he played against. This is a guy who I really think is going to be something special at the next level, and I didn't think that at the beginning, but after watching him at the combine, there's something cool about the guy. And what I mean, he's just cool under fire. There's a lot of pressure. This is a kid. He decided not to run the 40, but he knew he had to show hands. And if you didn't watch his gauntlet drill, it looked like he'd never dropped a pass in his life. I really, really like this kid. So when I was telling you, Aaron Rodgers, that quick little ball snap, 1-2 seconds out, this guy's catching the ball 7 yards down the field. And again, he's gone. You can't catch him. Now, look, our NFL running backs, our cornerbacks going to be able to run with him a little bit? Yeah, they definitely are. But this kid has special speed, and if it's even close at the next level, this is really going to be a guy who I would maybe risk this at 21. Now, if I could trade back, I still think you could maybe get him 25, 26. but I don't know if I'm doing that. But what I am doing is I'm trying to take 2 or 3 of my 3rd round picks, and I'm trying to get up into the 2nd round, early 2nd round, because that's where I think the next guy is going to go. So looking at the tail of the tape on KC, it was 5'11" on the first slide at 6 foot. There's conflicting information here, but this is actually from the combine. And the score they gave him as 6.4, they think he'll become a good starter within 2 years. I think with Michael Pittman and DK Metcalf on the outside, he could have an electric rookie year and really be a turning point for the Steelers to where they actually could, knock on wood, could win a playoff game for the first time in 10 years. At the very least, the offense is going to be exciting to watch. And after watching years of Matt Canada and Arthur Smith and dink and dunk and just run, pass. I mean, this would really be an interesting get for the Steelers. PFF, who not a total fan of PFF, but they do give him a grade of 78.4. His receiving grade's even a little bit higher. If you look at his targets and his receptions, didn't have the greatest quarterback play at Texas A&M, so I don't fault him too much. I mean, the 7 drops, so maybe he could catch 70% of his passes. I think he'll get the drops under control. The 15.1, I actually looked and I was expecting to see a bunch of 60, 70-yard plays. His longest play from scrimmage was only 48 yards. He had punt returns and kick returns longer than that, but his longest play, but when he caught those balls like we just saw in the tape, when he catches that ball 20, 30 yards out, 40 yards out, he's gone. And it happens so fast that it's sudden. You beat one corner and you saw him run through a tackle on that little screen pass. That happens in the NFL. Maybe he doesn't house it, but if he's picking up 20, 25, 30 yards and getting us down in the red zone where our basketball team of Darnell Washington and DK and Michael Pittman can take over, we'll throw Pat Fryermuth in there too. That's a pretty good deal. It's interesting. Okay. 9 touchdowns, also pretty good considering he only had 61 catches. That means he's taking it to the house 15% of the time. That's a weapon I want to see. That's a weapon I want to see. Speed kills, and I want to see this guy kill it in Pittsburgh. So I mentioned that I would take my picks and try to package up because this is the guy I really want. Now, there's rumors now we might have to take him at 21 to get him, but there is something special about this kid. I mean, he was projected to run a 4.740. He goes 4.57. Forces the most fumbles from the inside linebacker position. Forced more fumbles than a lot of teams. This guy just knows how to play. The Steelers have needed a green dot linebacker for a very long time. I love Ryan Shazier. I hated to see his career cut short, but he wasn't a green dot guy. Vince Williams, love Vince Williams, just sledgehammer in the middle. But, he had his limitations. I don't see any limitations with this guy. So let's watch a little film of Jacob Rodriguez here. Whoops. We went a little too far. Let's rewind back. So we got some visual aids here. You see him right in the middle of the defense. Look at him come downhill. And unlike Patrick Queen, not only does he hit the hole hard, he makes the tackle. Now here he is in pass coverage. Now, there he is, interception. We're going to get a replay and kind of see. The guy's got hands. He's not the biggest guy. He's only 6'1", 230. But that being said, a guy like Zach Thomas, who he's been comped to, this is a guy who could play in the league a very long time and be the leader of your defense. This is a guy you have to consider maybe going. If it becomes a choice between, let's say, all the receivers are gone and somebody jumps on KC, if it becomes a choice between this guy and the safeties, Thieneman and McNeil Warren, I don't know that this isn't the move. I know that we'd get crushed for taking a linebacker when we need a wide receiver, but there are guys who we can get in the second round. But if we could if this guy would slip into pick 33, 34, whatever we got to do to go up and get this guy, we should do. And we have the third round pick and draft capital to do it. Not trading a first from next year or anything. Let's not be crazy, but slide up a couple of, toss our second, maybe a third in, go get this guy. Now all of a sudden you got a wide receiver, Casey Concepcion, maybe Makai Lemon, maybe Jordan Tyson. I'm not all the way out on Jordan Tyson, but I think I would rather have KC over all of them. And then this guy. And then take a look at some more of this stuff here. You'll see him. Watch this. The guy runs into the hole, and he literally just takes the ball right out of the running back's hands. This isn't I knocked it loose. He just grabs onto the ball, old fashioned pole wrestling, just takes it away, and boom, look at that, and just gone. I mean, that's a special trait. And then here he is in pass coverage again, right in the middle of the field. Now he does not. Don't. This is not a comp. But when the Steelers defense was really great, this is where a James Ferry or a Jack Lambert dropping in the middle in the taking a deep drop and making this pick. I really get excited when I see this kind of stuff because the Steelers haven't had that kind of presence in the passing game in the middle of the field. Think about all the tight ends who have beat the shit out of us for the last few years. Now all of a sudden this guy's dropping in zone and picking off in the middle of the field if you're looking. There's a lot to like about this kid. He's really a game changer for the defense. And look at the athleticism. Yeah, and it's just it pops on tape. You watch this guy and he just pops. He just makes plays. I mean, you gotta love a kid like this. If we could somehow come away with Casey Concepcion and Jacob Rodriguez in the first round and early in the second doing what we have to do, that could be really interesting. Let's take a look. Relic's got a question here. Do you think a trade of 21 to get multiple seconds so we could get both KC and this guy? I did a week ago. I did a week ago, but I think you have to be. I'm worried about Denver taking Rodriguez. Now that they traded for Waddle, I'm a little less worried they would take a wide receiver. I think Buffalo's got to go wide receiver. And if somehow Lemon, Tyson, and Casey are there at 21, I don't think you can pass on one of those three. I think you have to take one. If I knew for a fact that somebody wasn't going to trade up in front of us and take one of those, if you got a chance to come away with one of those three, I think you do have to come away with one of those three. Now, that being said, if you told me we could take our second and third and get to pick 33 and hope that Rodriguez does slide, wouldn't do it until the round was over. I really do think that's where we could go. I do like the idea of trading up a little bit and getting him. Eh, it'd be really interesting. I know a lot of people like Vega from Penn State, and I love him. I just don't see any scenario where he slides past the Ravens. Honestly, I don't know that he slides past the Cowboys. I know some people think Caleb Downs, you just draft him with the with the buzz on him with the medicals. I don't. Dallas is the kind of team they do weird things. I could see Dallas taking him because you pair him with Tyler Booker. Now you're building what Dallas won with way back in the 90s, and don't put it past Jerry Jones to try to put this together with a big, strong, huge offensive line and hand the ball off and limit Dak's exposure. You know, I'm down on Dak. Everybody knows I'm down on Dak, but I think if you could get him to where he's not throwing the ball 40 times a game and you could get him into that 25, 30 managed range where you're play actioning and you have a ridiculous running game. And when you get two guards like Booker and Vega, that's an interesting choice. I would not be shocked if Cleveland in the top 10 took Vega because, they moved on from Batonio, they moved on from Teller. It seems like they're saddled with Deshaun Watson or Shador or XYZ quarterback, whoever else they can come up with. Dylan Gabriel, everybody talks about, you got to keep a third round pick. You got to keep a third round pick. I think Gabriel might have played himself out of the league as a rookie year. ESPN has Carnell Tate taken at 8. I've seen that too. But Carnell Tate to the Saints, I think you're getting a Michael Thomas type of receiver, a Drake London. And London has thrived in the NFC South. I didn't think he was that good, but he's played pretty well for the Falcons coming out. So, he's definitely made a nice career for himself. Dolphins taking Jordan Tyson at 11 would be interesting. I do agree they have to get a wide receiver. I don't know that Tyson would be the move there because of the injury history, although they are purposely tanking. Maybe they take him and rest him for a year. Malik Willis has got to be the maddest man on the planet with the fact that they traded Jalen Waddle away. I get it. They're ripping it all down, but I don't see Jermod McCoy going at 12. I really don't. I think they've got that reversed. If McCoy had ran, I think it's a big risk. I mean, if you get the player from 2024, yeah, it's a great pick. It's a great pick. I mean, I still like Delane better because I think he's more fundamentally sound. But if I get McCoy, I think I can get him a little bit later in the round. Honestly, if I can get Chris Johnson in the second, I don't think he gets to the third, but I think you could get him in the mid-second. I don't know that you're not getting the better player with Chris Johnson. So that being said, it'll be interesting to see what they do as they get closer to the draft. I also don't think, Steelers visits will be important, but I don't think it's the end all be all like it was in years past with Andy Weidel and Omar kind of bringing people to them and playing it a little closer to the vest. Looking back on the Tomlin era, I would have liked to have seen him be a little more deceptive in his interest at the combine, and also at these pro days and when he went to the Senior Bowl. People knew he'd show up and he'd fall in love with guys, and maybe they'd shoot up a draft board a little bit. But then again, you're also looking at, well, the Steelers aren't going to take a guy that he's not personally involved with. We had some opportunity for some deception there, maybe to get some people in on some guys. And I don't know that we always took it. But that being said, it's Monday. It's my favorite thing to do on a Monday is a mock draft. So let me pull up the simulator here. And we'll get to our mock draft. Bear with me one moment while I pull it up. Sorry, I should have had it ready, but had a little technical difficulties right before the podcast and I had to restart my computer. So let's share my screen. Now, for the purpose of this exercise, of course, we're going to do the 7 rounds. We're going to use our friend Somber's settings here, where we're going to have no care for the positional value. We'll have care for the draft for needs, and we'll put random right about the S. And of course, we'll pick the Steelers. And let's get it started. See what we come up with here. All right, so we're going to start the draft. We're not going to try to trade up just yet, but let's take a look at what we got available to us. So we've got Akeem Messidor. We got McNeil Warren, who's an interesting pick. I'm not out on him at all. I do like him. I don't think the 2 edges are the way to go. Terrell is growing on me. I know a lot of people like Omar Cooper, and he's moved up. I still see him as very similar to Igbuka last year. High floor, low ceiling type of guy. Let's see who's available at wide receiver here. See if KC's still on the board. He is. For some reason, PFF and a lot of people have started to fall in love with Denzel Boston again. I would like to know how it is that you tank your pro day you screw up the combine, you basically have made yourself into, hey, I was a top 3-4 wide receiver in the top 10. You did everything wrong. I mean, talk about failing up. I do not get it with what's the love affair. I mean, I get the size, but bottom line is if the guy won't run, I mean, Malachi Fields is huge, but he ran a 4.640 and went from a potential fringe second round pick to guy will go in the fourth somewhere. Probably still be a pretty good player, but he's going to go in the fourth somewhere, and he's got to go to the right place. And I do not see him being a number 1 or number 2 receiver. He could be a nice big weapon down the field, maybe later in his career. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is here. Although, let's take a look at the trades. Tennessee seems to want to trade with us, so let's roll the dice, like Relic said. See if we trade back and maybe find a way. Well, if we do that, we're probably not going to get Rodriguez. So let's be safe. We're not going to get the best grade over this, but we don't really care because we're getting the best player. So let's go KC Concepcion. All right, let's see if he's still there. I don't see him. There he went at 42. So I probably should have paused the draft right after that to make the trade to get up there. But that being said, let's take a look. Eli Stowers is a guy that if you follow my mocks, you know that I love him. That being said, it seems like they're resolved to have Pat Fryermuth on the team. This is the PFF simulator Relic. I always use this because it gives an instant draft grade. Guy I really like has been coming on. I liked him. I really thought he was going to be a third round pick, but he's pretty consistently shooting up into the second round now. And that's Keith Abney, the corner from Arizona State. Lots to like about that guy. Plays fast, good coverage guy. There are some interesting guys here. The board has really changed a little bit. Let's take before we take Keith Abney here, let's just see what somebody might offer us. I don't know that I want to go all the way back there. Commanders could be interesting because we could pick up 2 or 3 players here. Let's take a look. Yeah, Chris Johnson's already gone. There are some guys here, though. You know what? Let's see what the Seahawks want to offer here. And that's not quite enough. Let's take a look at the Commanders again. And it's not enough. If we're going to do this, we got to rape somebody here on the trade. So a little trade rape going on. Nope, nothing happening there. All right, we're taking a player. Let's go back here. I'm going to go Abney because at this point he's definitely the best corner, and I think he brings something a little bit unique to us. So let's take a look and see what we've got available here now. Mike Washington, interesting guy, almost a perfect RAS score, but this is the guy I was really hoping for. Do we need a guard? Yes. Am I perfectly fine with drafting Keelan Rutledge in this round? Absolutely yes. I think that really helps the team. I think he's maybe not a plug-and-play starter, but by the end of training camp, definitely by the end of the first month of the season, I would expect he can take over. All right, so now let's take a look at what we've got available. We're not taking a center. I can tell you that. So now I couldn't get Jacob Rodriguez, although I will plan better for next Monday that we'll do the trade before the draft to get us into position to get him. But this is a nice little consolation prize right here. Anthony Hill Jr. I really like his game. I think I think he's a guy who could really do some nice things in the middle. I don't know that he's a green dot guy to start, but maybe we slap it on Cole Holcomb. maybe we give Patrick Queen one more shot at it. I don't know. I don't love the idea of Patrick Queen. I don't think we can put it. I'm not taking a punter. Absolutely not. I don't love the idea of taking a punter ever in any draft. I always think that's a monumental mistake. Usually, it's a sign of a bad organization. Hate to see Zachy Wheatley come off the board right there. But that being said, this is another guy. Markel Bell is an interesting name. I've seen him now slide up to where he's late third, early fourth. And looking at the receivers that are available, if we wait here, there's a couple guys I like. I do still think we need to take 2 wide receivers, but we took KC. So I'm good with waiting on that here. And I'm good with going back to this tackle, who I think will help us. I don't think he's going to help us next year. I don't think he needs to. I think they let this kid sit and develop for a year. Could do a lot worse than a 6'9" left tackle who gets in a little bit better shape and proves he can handle the NFL pass rush. All right. Now, for those of you here, this is a guy who's very interesting. I've seen him mocked to the Steelers a lot, Javian Harris. He's kind of a big guy, 6'8", 330. Putting him, Y.A. Black, and Derek Harmon on the line, good luck throwing over that, especially if you happen to be a 6'1", 6'2" quarterback. You had better be 6'5" when you're playing that defensive line. Just on size alone, I don't know. I mean, we kind of need more of a nose here. But that being said, I can't pass up 6'8", 330. I like size on my guys. I want my guys to be big and huge. I think if you're going to play bully ball, you need bullies to do it. This guy's a bully, and he could easily put on 20 pounds on a 6'8" frame and still be really, really good. So we're gonna take a giant defensive tackle. This gets interesting because Bryce Buckner, he was going in the late 6th, early 7th consistently. And now he's jumped up the board a little bit. We already got our linebacker with Anthony Hill. If this guy in the 6th round is there, I take him all day long. I think he's a good special teams player. I think he can grow into something. I think people are way overvaluing him right now. I don't really understand why. He did pretty good at the combine, but not great. So that being said, I'm going to take a look at what's available at the wide receiver position. These are 2 guys I like. I like Kevin Coleman from Missouri. He had a really good Senior Bowl. And then Eric Rivers, he's a guy I've liked since the beginning of the draft process. Georgia Tech receivers don't get a lot of hype because they don't throw the ball a lot. But number 1, they can block. And number 2, this guy's lightning too. So you give me my basketball team on the outside with Pittman, Darnell, and DK. You throw KC, Concepcion, and Eric Rivers in the mix. Now you got something going. And none of these guys will be 5'10". I mean, that's what I like. I mean, well, I take that back. I say that Eric Rivers, watch him be 5'10". Nope, he's 5'11". So he's good. He can ride the roller coaster. So we're drafting him. Give me Eric Rivers. I don't know that we're going to get a great grade here because we're stretching on some guys, but we're stretching on guys we like. So now, excuse me, cold is kicking in. You got the 2 Penn State running backs. I like both of them, but we do need a third tight end. Mike McCarthy doesn't play a lot of 3 tight end sets, but you can't have only 2 tight ends. So Warrior from Cincinnati is a pretty good player, but again, full disclosure, Notre Dame bias. Plus, Notre Dame tight ends usually do really well in the league. So at this point, 161, I'm going to take the ADP of 161. Give me Eli Raridan. Oh, thoughts on the Claypool post? Honestly, I don't know that he was trying to get back to the Steelers as much as just put it out there that, hey, I'm available for anybody who would take me. stranger things have happened. It generally doesn't happen where the Steelers bring malcontents back, and the guy really hurt himself. I mean, as far as the league goes, all the talent in the world, though. I mean, he's a big guy. If he could still run, would I take a flyer? Maybe on a league minimum, let him come in and prove it. I mean, let's face it, if you catch lightning in a bottle and he's even close to what he was his rookie year, you've got a deep threat to run straight down the field. I don't know that he fits the offense, though, with Pittman and Metcalf to kind of fill that role. If you brought Claypool in, I think you'd be going more of a power slot, in which case I don't think we're taking a wide receiver as early as we all think. I just don't. I can't see any world where Mike McCarthy or the Steelers would look at it and say, well, yeah, Chase Claypool, he was the answer 5 years later. But, is it possible? Sure. Weird things here. They could bring back Kenny Pickett. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, unless he gets a job as a beer vendor, he's got a halfway decent arm to chuck beer underhand. So you could maybe see him. I love Eli Heidenreich. Maybe it's the Navy guy in me. Just going to take a look here at the quarterbacks and see who's still available. Yep. So I know he's undersized for a fullback. I totally get it. I think he can play special teams. That 40 was a revelation. I think he can put on 20 pounds and be a more physical NFL fullback. But if you actually watched any Navy football besides the Army Navy game, he makes a lot of plays. Is he Kyle Juszczyk, maybe? Possibly, if you use him right. He's got speed. He's got hands. He's pretty good in the passing game. But if he's going to be a true fullback, I mean, obviously he's got to get in there and put a helmet in there and block. So at 198, he's a little too small to do that. But could he be your third halfback? Maybe your fourth halfback? I don't know. I don't know. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. Imagine Kenny Pickett. Oh, the booze that would ensue. It's so funny. When they drafted him, I watched him play here in Jacksonville, and I was not a fan until I saw him live. And I could just see, like, I sat right behind the Steelers bench watching them play the Jaguars, and you could just see the gravitating, the players. They really were enthusiastic, especially when he's about to go in the game. But even before that, players were coming over and talking to him. And I'm not talking about bench guys. I'm talking about starters were coming over and talking to him. The guy had charisma, unfortunately. He didn't have the talent. It doesn't always work out. And when you take a third round pick as your first round pick, it goes bad for the franchise, as we can all see. So let's go back to the draft here. We've got our Eli Heidenreich. Now we're going to take our quarterback in the 7th round here. I love Cole Payton. I don't think he's going to actually go in the 7th round. I think PFF is way undervaluing him. I've seen him go as high as the 3rd. I think he's the ideal 4th round pick. I would love to see him as our 4th or even 5th round pick if there was some thought he might slide. Some interesting guys here. Now, if we're going to go running back, and I think it's possible they'll draft one. I have a sinking suspicion Caleb Johnson, if they can't trade him. I'm not saying he's going to get cut, but I'm saying that he might be on the practice squad. So there's usually a guy here who I really like from South Carolina, but apparently he's gone. This is an interesting guy, Jam Miller from Alabama. He's got some upside to him. Definitely a kind of a physical smash it up back. Could fit nicely behind Dowdle and Warren as an occasional spell. I don't think he's a long-term solution, but I think he'd probably be a pretty decent special teamers, and I think ultimately he could be a pretty good short yardage back. So give me Jam to kind of fill out the draft here. Van Speak had Cole Payton going to the Rams in the 6th. Look, if Sean McVay likes him, I don't think you can get higher praise than that. And then looks like we've got one more pick here. It's kind of slim pickings down here. That being said, There is a guy. Let's see if he's still here. Okay, so I like Haynes King. I like him to play a Taysom Hill role, and I know we took Eli Raridan, but it takes a year for a quarterback to kind of transition into tight end. So give me a flyer on Haynes King at the end here, all strictly on the thought that I'm going to change his position. So let's see what kind of grade I get. I'm hoping for a B. They did not like me drafting KC Concepcion. But that being said, they get a C minus. Come on, PFF. You love wide receivers. What are you doing to me? Keith Abney a B. Kid's a comer. Kid's a comer. If we end up with him at cornerback, it's not the worst thing in the world. Keon Rutledge got our first A of the draft. Anthony Hill, C plus. I think that's a little low, especially when you're getting him at pick 85. I've seen some mock drafts where he goes in the second round. Markel Bell project, but I think, man, that could really pay off. If you haven't seen pictures of it, definitely go up on X or look at when the Steelers had him in for a visit. The kid is huge. He's 6'9" and he's 800 pounds. Well, maybe not 800 pounds, but he's 6'9" and he looks like he's 800 pounds. So give me a big giant tackle who could really turn into something. Interesting guy. Interesting guy. I think he's got to get his footwork. If you draft that guy in the mid rounds and really just develop him, let him sit for a year, that's a kid who could maybe turn into a starting left tackle. And you get a guy like that in the fourth round. Doesn't happen often, but there are guys you can get down there. Xavier Harris got a B minus. I got an F for Eric Rivers. Well, all I can say to that is fuck you, PFF. I got a B minus for Eli. Got an A for the Eli's. Hey, more Eli's we can get on the team, the better off we are, right? Cole Payton got a B. Jam Miller a B. Got a B minus overall. So even with an F, take that. All right, so we're good to go. All right, and I'll post this up on my X later on once we get off the podcast. Drop me a comment on X. Let me know what you might have done differently. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Relic was very good in the comments. Everybody else, don't be shy. It's okay. You can talk to me. I won't go crazy. Unless you say something really crazy, like maybe talk about signing Anthony Richardson or, one of those other things. But that being said, hey, look, if you could tell me right now, we'd take Anthony Richardson for the role that I'm drafting Haynes King for. I'm not opposed to it. But otherwise, we'll be back on Friday with our special guest. I'll announce that a little later in the week once we agree to the time. But theoretically, Monday and Friday, 6:30 is when we'll have our podcast and we'll talk Steelers and all that good stuff. If you're interested in fantasy baseball, Novocaine Fantasy Sports Podcast, I'll probably broadcast that on my X going forward as well. A lot of fun, good fantasy baseball advice. Are we all world champions and experts? No, but we like to pretend we are. So it's a lot of fun, and we have a cool intro. One of the guys on the podcast, Benny Black, is a rapper. I strongly encourage you to look him up on YouTube. He's got a lot of cool videos, and the theme song for Novocaine Fantasy Sports is his Novocaine single. So check it out. That's basically it. That's all I got. I look forward to talking more Steelers with you. So we'll do generally on Monday, we'll talk more about the drafts. On Friday, we'll talk more about general Steelers news. And then once we get past the draft and free agency and Aaron Rodgers comes to town finally, then we may do some historical stuff. You guys know I'm big into the history of the Steelers. So we'll talk some 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, whatever you guys want to talk about. If you guys got ideas of what you want me to talk about, hit me up on X, drop a comment on the podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, turn those notifications on. Let's grow this thing. Let's blow it up. It won't just be me only going forward, but then again, Maybe it will on some occasions. But yeah, again, appreciate all you guys watching. I'll talk to you soon, and see you on Friday.
You better relax, Bob.